Today we talk Marvel and DC, specifically the premieres versus the compacts. First off, show the shelf. We got the ones that we are choosing here to build some suspense. We're just kind of talking the purpose of these books and what I would suggest reading wise for some of these books. So first off, if we just take two of these to just look at, you're kind of looking at the size of a compact versus a premiere. The premiere is always going to have a matte material to it. And then in the back, you'll usually have original art. And in the front, you'll always have an introduction either from the writer themselves or a past writer. And then in the compact version, this is more of just like a plasticky feel, a little bit glossy. They're all $10 and all the premieres are $15. Typically with the premieres, you might get some extras, but it typically is just the story and then maybe some previews into the next one. The Watchmen one is really good because of it also contains all the different letters there. But if you want to see a better analysis of the books themselves, there are a lot of YouTube channels that will cover that. I'm just going to be covering the ones that I would suggest if you've never got a premiere or a compact. First off, Marvel Civil War. My wife Abby and I, we just watched Civil War here recently. I was reminded how amazing it was. This is Mark Millar and Steve McNiven. Art of Steve McNiven in the early 2000s was gritty. The facial expressions were great. The lines were dark on the faces. This is an event where we see the Stamford, that's Stam with an M as in Mark Millar. Stamford incident where you have these young superheroes who get into a lot of trouble. There were some deaths that occurred. And then all of a sudden we have this fissure split between Iron Man and Captain America in saying, do you have to register towards the government in order to be a superhero? Reveal your identity, or are you on the other side? I would suggest this one if you want to have a good understanding of kind of how we've landed on our Marvel world now. Over on the DC side, on the DC compact, Green Arrow Year One. This is a skinnier compact, but this compact is a lot of fun. Like I said, they are all $10, so depending on the one you get, you might be getting a lot of content or a little bit. This takes Green Arrow, and this is before New 52 and everything, so this is no longer canonical, but it's a great understanding of who Ollie is as a character. We see him being arrogant. We see him with his friends, but we see his resourcefulness. The person who he was working with had a lot of different offshore accounts. Ollie discovered this, went on a boat with him, and his friend abandoned him, assuming that Ollie was dead, when in reality, Ollie was very naturally talented in being an arrow man. What would you call that? What's the word I'm looking for? Archer. Yeah, he's very talented in being an archer and very skilled. And so I liked it because it was just the bare bones, like a lot of fun, very quick, very snappy. It's not the greatest Green Arrow story, but it's a really awesome one to start off in reading. Again, back on the Marvel premiere side, we got Daredevil Born Again. So this is a great example of what some of the premieres seek to do. This isn't the full Frank Miller story. So what I mean by that is we'll typically have a big run. So that could be up to, 50 issues or 100 issues. But this is kind of smack dab in the middle-ish of the Frank Miller run. This is what best modernized Daredevil as we know it. I would suggest this, especially if you're a little bit more afraid of reading older comics, in case you see a lot of word bubbles like this with the Kingpin, and you're like, oh no, I can't deal with word bubbles. I'm telling you right now, this is an amazing story. There's Nuke there as well. Daredevil being stripped of everything and what that does to shape his faith or his vigilantism? Would that be a word? To his vigilante nature, maybe? And also just what it shapes for him to be Daredevil in general. I really like it. And there's a lot of these titles here that have biblical allegory or themes to them. Purgatory, obviously we have Born Again, Armageddon. I first read Chip Zdarsky's Daredevil run, and then I read Brian Michael Bendis's run. I will eventually read Frank Miller's run. That is the thing that convinced me to actually dive in and read it. Surprisingly, Deceased is what I would suggest if you've never read a DC book. It's DC Zombies, which on the surface sounds very watered down. There's this virus that ends up entering the Earth, and the virus entered through the vehicle of Cyborg himself. So it's kind of pretty tragic in that way, but why I like it is because it really does introduce a lot of the DC world. There are people that you might have never seen that you could be eventually interested in seeing. And Deceased just shows what happens. It's an Elseworld story, meaning this isn't canonical. This happened Elseworld. It just shows what the heroes do either across the pond or the main ones that we know, how they react to a zombie outbreak, a virus outbreak. I like it because it was a great introduction to a lot of characters that I honestly didn't really know about. Captain America, Winter Soldier. So if you've never read this or you know nothing about it, please skip ahead because I don't want to spoil anything. Okay. Typically in Marvel and in DC, they really don't kill off people. They always come back, but there's always exceptions to that rule. We have Gwen Stacy, who has been dead for a while. There's Bucky was also that character. He was also someone who died, Captain America's sidekick, but then he was brought back in this Ed Brubaker run. Again, this is Steve Epting, so the lines and everything pretty harsh on the faces. Gives great characterization to who Captain America is on the surface. You're kind of like, is this just propaganda for the character of Captain America? But this is a man who stands for doing the right thing no matter the cost, which is why I personally resonate with him quite a bit. The Ed Brubaker run of Captain America is legendary. So if you want a little preview, if you want a little, oh, I had a Dragon Ball Z card in there. Oh, I was like, what just dropped? If you want a little bit of a preview into who Captain America and his character is, this is the place to begin. The last on the DC end, what did I choose? Batman White Knight. Kind of an interesting name, especially when you have the title. You're like, what could this possibly be about? This is another Elseworld story, Sean Murphy. And in this Elseworld story, it poses the question, what would happen if Joker's whole DNA and his mind structure ended up balancing out? So instead of him, because he's always intelligent, but he's just crazy. So this is the Joker when he actually ends up taking some pills. It was either pills or a drink. I forget what it was. And then his mind ended up stabilizing. And then he was taking down Batman from a political standpoint and from a people standpoint. So the people of the city were recognizing, oh yeah, we know this used to be the Joker, but now we're siding with him because he's bringing up these good points about Batman running through the city and how that affects our tax dollars. This is one I flew through just because I really enjoy the Joker when he's done well. And I thought this was a great interpretation of who the Joker is. Whether you do get Marvel Premiere or you get DC Compacts, I think it is overall a great win because it's a value to either just say, I've never read a specific run, so let me find a preview of it, or I can have the entire, like Green Arrow Year One, that's the entire run in that little compact. And I'm personally not going to ever get that in the deluxe version because I figure that this version is good enough. There are so many different YouTube videos that you could check out that talk about the different sizing and then the material and the content for you to make a great decision. But if you could find these secondhand, find them on sale, whatever it is, it's a great deal to get these and also to loan to a friend. So let me know what you kind of think about these different lines between the Premiere and the Compact. If you have a preference, there is no right answer to this. This is just your preference, and that's how life goes. I'd just love to hear your opinion. If not, more power to you. Thanks so much for watching. Catch you next time.